Hey, welcome to Man Kitchen Recipes. I'm Kevin, and like the title says, I've got a brisket here. It is just under 1 ounce, under 15 pounds. So that's a 15 pounder. All right, $5.88 a pound. Finally found one at Sam's Club. I went to our Shamrock store, and they had lots the other day, and they were out. I stopped by a couple grocery stores, didn't have any. Anyway, so I don't know about you guys, but for me, I'm not always cooking for a crowd of people to serve a brisket to, but I crave brisket. So, and sometimes, I'd go get a chuck that's only 2 to 3 pounds and smoke a chuck and shred it up or slice it or whatever I want to do, but it's just not brisket. And brisket is actually cheaper than chuck. This one was $5.88 a pound. Chuck on sale. If we're lucky, we can find it for $6.99 a pound here. It's usually $8.99, and so it's not poor man's brisket. Anyway, so back to wanting brisket and not having a bunch of people to eat it, and I don't want to cook the whole thing today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably get out of this 15 pounder, I think I can get, after the fat's trimmed off, maybe 4 portions, maybe 5. And with those 5 portions then for probably the next 5 weeks or so, and there may be other cooks in between, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this brisket that you would normally make with like a chuck roast. So anyway, let's get this thing trimmed up and we'll go from there. All right, here's my brisket. Let me just cut it out of the pack. Okay, so if you've never trimmed or cooked or smoked a brisket, you want to cut the fat, the big hard fat. You'll see it on there. There's big pieces of fat. So we're going to trim this up. Man, after 15 pounds, I might only end up with 12 after cutting all this fat. So don't let it intimidate you. You're not in a competition. It doesn't matter what it looks like once it's done cut up. If you can make it look nice, great. If not, well, smoke it as you cut it, and it's not that big of a deal. All right, so I'm going to get this trimmed up, and then we'll see how many sections I can get, depending on what the new weight is. Okay. Okay, so right now, I'm not going to worry too much about this. I have some silver skin on here that I can take off. Not a lot of fat. Most of the fat is down here on the point, and that's usually where most of your fat, this big piece of thick fat. If you have any brown meat like that, all you got to do is trim it. You can eat it. It's not going to hurt you. It's just oxidized. But if you trim it off, you have the nice red meat, and it looks more appealing. I'm not going to let it go to waste, don't worry. And I'm not going to let the fat go to waste either. All right, I'm going to have to move my camera because I need to get after this thing. Okay, so we're going to go at an angle probably. Okay, so I'll probably weigh it out to see. It's not too much fat. It's not as much as some of the other, and I could keep going and getting some of this fat off. But since I'm going to cut it in sections, I do want some of the fat. Like I can trim this down by half on that corner if I want. If you see anything on there that just doesn't look appetizing, just cut it off. It's fine. If you're going to cook it whole, see what I mean? It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look beautiful. If you're just smoking it in your backyard, right? Now this is a big chunk of fat that's in here, but I'm thinking that once I cut this thing into sections, then I'll deal with this extra fat and the fat down here on the flat. So yeah, let's get this thing cut up. I need to get my scale so we can see what we're working with. Got my scale out. I'm just gonna, just so we're sure, we get the tar weight on the 3 ounces from my baggie. Okay. This is just a half-gallon bag. All right, half-gallon bag. I got all the fat in there. 1 pound, 14 ounces for just under 2 pounds. Let me just cut a little fat. Let's try to make it an even 2. Close enough. 2 pounds, right? All right, 2 pounds of fat. So my 15-pound brisket is now 13 pounds. So I've got a paper plate on there. We're going to do the tar weight. Maybe. Okay, that's zeroed out, the weight of the plate. Obviously, I don't know how much I cut off is going to be exactly what I want, but I'm thinking for a, gosh, I think for one meal, I'm just going to go right about here, and let's see what this weighs. It's not going to be much. You know, when there's only 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people eating, and you don't want to smoke an entire brisket, but you want brisket, you know, don't be afraid to portion it. And then when I do the portions, I'll vacuum seal it. And then when we're ready, we will pull it out of the freezer, make another meal. Okay, so that's 2.49, which is perfect because that's usually what you'll get when you buy a chuck steak or a chuck roast. Okay, so at the $5.88 a pound, that does include the fat, but chuck roast has fat as well. So that's about 14 bucks. If it was a chuck, it'd be 20. And that's at 8 bucks. That's not even going to the $8.99 or going on sale at $6.99. It's $8 a pound. So there's a $6 savings using brisket over chuck for this portion. Okay. So I've got my brisket over here. Let's get another, I can get another piece of that flat. Let's go right in here. 2, 3, okay. Okay, and now that piece is just getting a little bit of the point. And that piece is going to be 2.89. So, well, just a little under 3 pounds. Okay, that's going to make a nice meal. Same thing, you know, that's going to be a $6, $7, $8 savings. Now we're going to start cutting. I think I'm going to get 3 pieces out of this point, or what's left here. Like I said, it's just, I mean, even these 3-pound pieces of meat is way more meat than I need for just myself, or myself and, you know, Elizabeth, or myself and, you know, a couple other guests. We're going to have some great meals out of this. So I'm going to cut another smaller piece out of this portion of that's just starting to get into the point. So I'm going to cut a smaller piece out because there's going to be times when I don't want a whole, we're not having, you know, 4 or 5 people over. Okay, and look at there. That's about a half and half almost. That's the point part on the top. Look at all that fat in the middle. What are we looking at for this one? 1 1/4 pound. I mean, I could take this piece right here, and I could even grind this up and have just a little over a pound of £1 1/4 of hamburger. And you know, even hamburger is $5.99 a pound, or sometimes $6.99 a pound. So this, you would have some brisket burger, which I might do. I've had brisket burger, and this has just enough fat content already in it. If you have a grinder, that's a good option. All right. I'm going to cut the end of the point off. This one down here. I might just, I don't know if I want to half it. Because even if I half it, for like I'm saying, for me, these 2.5 pound chucks or brisket if it's a chuck, I mean, that's plenty for a couple of meals, especially if I'm using some for, you know, tacos. Okay, so boy, I don't know if I'm. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and go. I'm gonna go ahead and go right about here, which leaves, that'll probably leave a 2 to 3 pound on this side, and I don't know what this side will be, but that'll make a very good dinner. So we're gonna have 5 different portions, one of them small. And when it comes time, I may portion this out again. Okay, get my plate on there. Let's see what this end point, the end piece of the point. Look at all that fat running through there. That'll need to be rendered out, or I might even just cut it out. So that's just over 2 pounds, well, it's 2.5 is 2.8, so a little over 2.5 pounds for that. And then the last chunk that I have here, let me see, let me make sure that's zeroed out. Okay. That is 3.8. That's just 3.5 pounds, actually. All right, so 5 different meals at minimum, and there's going to be leftovers. Whether 2 people are eating or 4 people are eating, there's going to be leftovers. All right, I'm going to use a portion of this, and then I'm going to vacuum seal the rest. And we're definitely going to be using this fat. If you have fat and you're smoking your whole brisket, don't throw it away. Throw it in a pan and throw it in with your cook, and you'll get some smoked tallow out of it. And that's what I'm going to be doing on the first cook with this. Okay, so what I ended up with was, and I wrote it on here, 2.25 pound piece of the point, vacuum sealed, ready for another meal. I mean, look at that. Okay, I've got another 2.5 pound piece of the flat, all vacuum sealed, ready for a meal. I got 1.25 pounds. Part of it's the flat, part of it's the point. Not sure if I'm going to do burger, but I might. I've got the point at 3.5 pounds of the point. Look at that. That's going to make a fantastic meal. And I'm still left with a 2.25 pound piece of the flat that was down there at the end. That, you know, I mean, I hate to do this to you, but you're going to have to come back next week to see what I do with that piece of flat. Hey, and don't forget to come over to Tortilla Takeover, where I get to use some of the leftovers of this brisket to make some fantastic meals using tortillas. I'm sure we'll be making tacos, probably maybe a burrito, maybe enchiladas sounds really good.
You're going to make some great stuff over at Tortilla Takeover.
So don't forget to come over and subscribe to my other channel.
Come over to Tortilla Takeover and check out what we're going to make over there. And stay here at Man Kitchen Recipes for the next, I don't know, 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, and see what we do with this brisket. One brisket, money saving as far as meal prepping and meal portioning, and you know, we're getting at least 5 meals. Plus, Tortilla Takeover is going to have some leftovers or just made for Tortilla Takeover. So don't forget to hit the subscribe and ring the bell so that you're notified to find out what all we're making with this brisket. Thanks for checking this out. I hope you have a great day.